Have you ever noticed how you sabotage yourself right when things start going well, when everything seems to be aligning, and yet somehow you hesitate, you slow down, and you pull back without fully understanding why that happens? You say you want success, you think about it constantly, you imagine what your life could look like if everything worked out, and you even make plans to get there, but at the exact moment when action is required, something inside you resists and holds you back. And somehow you hesitate, you procrastinate, you delay decisions that you know are important, and in many cases you end up quitting right before the breakthrough that could have changed everything in your life. Why does this happen, and why does it feel like no matter how motivated you are, there is always something inside you that seems to push you in the opposite direction of what you truly want? What if I told you that your brain is not actually designed to help you succeed, and that everything you've been told about mindset and motivation only scratches the surface of a much deeper mechanism? Your brain is not designed for success, it is designed for survival, and that distinction changes everything once you truly understand what it means in your daily life. And sometimes, success itself feels like a threat to your brain, even though consciously you believe it is exactly what you want and what you need. Let me explain this in a way that completely shifts how you see yourself and your own behavior. Your brain has one primary job, and it is not to make you rich, it is not to make you fulfilled, and it is not even to make you happy in the way you imagine. Its job is extremely simple, and at the same time incredibly powerful in shaping your entire life. Its job is to keep you alive, no matter what that requires. And for your brain, being alive does not mean thriving, it does not mean growing, and it does not mean reaching your full potential. It simply means staying safe, staying predictable, and staying within what is already familiar to you. Now think about this carefully, because this is where everything starts to make sense. Everything you want in life, whether it is success, money, confidence, or status, requires one fundamental element that your brain naturally resists. That element is change, and change is exactly what your brain is trying to avoid at all costs. Your brain hates change because change introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty, from a biological perspective, is interpreted as potential danger. So what does your brain do in response to that perceived danger, even if it is not real in the modern world? It pulls you back, it creates resistance, it generates doubt, and it makes you question your own decisions even when they are aligned with your goals. And it does this not because something is wrong with you, but because your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do since the beginning. It is trying to protect you, even if that protection is silently limiting your growth and destroying your potential over time. Think about the last time you tried to do something new or step outside of your routine in a meaningful way. Maybe you wanted to start a business, maybe you decided to go to the gym consistently, or maybe you tried to talk to someone you were attracted to. At the beginning, everything felt exciting. You felt motivated, energized, and ready to take action towards something bigger. But then something changed, and that shift is where most people lose control of their own behavior. Doubt started to appear, questions began to surface in your mind, and suddenly what felt possible started to feel uncertain and risky. You started thinking things like, what if I fail? What will people think about me? And maybe I should wait for a better moment. And this is not random, it is not weakness, and it is not a lack of discipline in the way most people believe. This is your brain activating a defense mechanism that has been refined over thousands of years. It is essentially telling you to stay where you are because it is safer, even if staying there is slowly making you feel frustrated and stuck. Even if that place represents mediocrity, lack of progress, and unfulfilled potential, your brain still prefers it because it is known and predictable. Because your brain does not measure success in the way you consciously do, it measures risk and evaluates everything based on that. And success, by its very nature, is risky because it requires you to step into the unknown. Now here is where things become even more interesting and more dangerous if you are not aware of it. Your brain is addicted to comfort, not to happiness, and understanding this difference is crucial if you want to change your life. Comfort is predictable, it is repetitive, and it keeps you within the same patterns that you already know. Happiness, on the other hand, often requires growth, uncertainty, and stepping into situations that challenge you. And growth always feels uncomfortable at the beginning, which is exactly why your brain tries to avoid it. So your brain starts playing subtle tricks on you, and most of the time you do not even realize that this is happening. It rewards you for staying small, for avoiding challenges, and for choosing the easiest path available in the moment. Think about behaviors like scrolling endlessly on your phone, watching videos for hours, or avoiding tasks that require effort. These behaviors feel good in the short term, and that feeling is not accidental. That is dopamine, your brain giving you a reward for doing something that requires no risk and no effort. Now compare that to doing something difficult, something that actually moves your life forward in a meaningful way. Working out, learning a new skill, or taking risks in your personal or professional life often feels uncomfortable at first. And that discomfort exists because your brain is resisting what you are trying to do. It sees effort as a potential threat, and it prefers immediate pleasure over long-term rewards that require patience and consistency. This is why so many people stay stuck for years, even when they know exactly what they should be doing. It is not because they are lazy, and it is not because they are incapable of achieving more. It is because their brain is constantly pulling them back into comfort, into safety, and into patterns that feel familiar. And the most dangerous part of all of this is that you do not even notice it happening in real time. It feels like your own thoughts, your own decisions, and your own logic guiding your actions. But in reality, it is programming that has been reinforced over years of repeated behavior. Every time you avoided discomfort, your brain learned that this is the right choice and that it should be repeated. Every time you played it safe, your brain reinforced the idea that this is what keeps you alive and protected. So now, when you try to level up, when you try to grow, and when you try to become more than what you currently are, your brain fights back intensely. It creates excuses, it amplifies fear, and it makes quitting feel like the most reasonable and logical decision you could make. Have you ever noticed how quitting often feels justified, as if you have valid reasons for stopping even when deep down you know you are giving up? That is not a coincidence. It is your brain building a case against your own success in order to protect you from perceived risk. But here is the truth that most people never fully understand or accept. The discomfort you feel when you are trying to grow is not danger, it is a signal of progress. Your brain confuses growth with danger, and until you understand this distinction, you will continue to sabotage yourself without realizing it. Now let's go even deeper into how this mechanism operates in your daily life. There is something called the identity loop, and it plays a massive role in how your brain shapes your behavior. Your brain does not only protect your physical safety, it also protects your identity, which is who you believe you are. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, your brain will create situations and patterns that keep you in that state. If you believe you are not confident, your brain will reinforce that belief by making you act in ways that confirm it. This happens because your brain craves consistency, even if that consistency is negative and limiting. It would rather keep you the same than risk you becoming someone unfamiliar and unpredictable. That is why success often feels uncomfortable, because it requires you to become someone new, and your brain resists that transformation at a very deep level. It whispers thoughts like this is not who you are, you do not belong here, and you are going to mess this up. That voice may feel real, it may feel logical, but it is not the truth. It is fear disguised as logic, and most people never question it. That is why most people never reach their full potential, even though they have the ability to do so. But the people who do succeed understand something that changes everything about how they operate. They do not trust their brain blindly, and they do not obey every thought that appears in their mind. They challenge those thoughts, and they move forward even when it feels uncomfortable or wrong. Because they understand that what feels safe is often what keeps them stuck, and what feels uncomfortable is often the path forward. Let me ask you something that requires honesty from yourself. How many opportunities have you missed because you hesitated at the last moment? How many times did you almost take action towards something meaningful, but backed out right before it mattered? That was not a lack of ability, and it was not a lack of intelligence or potential. That was your brain choosing safety over growth in a moment that could have changed your life. Now imagine what would happen if you could override that pattern consistently. Imagine if you could take action despite the fear, despite the doubt, and despite the discomfort that tries to stop you. That is where everything begins to change in a real and lasting way. Because success is not about eliminating fear or waiting until you feel ready. It is about acting in spite of fear, even when every part of you wants to stay where it is comfortable. The people you admire, the ones who seem confident and successful, feel the same fear and resistance that you feel. They experience doubt, hesitation, and uncertainty just like anyone else. The difference is that they do not let those feelings control their actions. They have trained themselves to move forward anyway, regardless of how they feel in the moment. And this is something that you can develop as well, with awareness and repetition. But the first step is awareness, and without it, nothing changes. You need to recognize when your brain is trying to sabotage you in subtle ways. In the moment when you feel resistance, instead of running away from it, you need to pause and observe it. Ask yourself if what you are feeling is real danger or simply discomfort that comes with growth. Most of the time, it is just discomfort, and that realization is incredibly powerful. Because that feeling becomes a signal, not a stop sign, but a direction that you need to follow. Growth exists on the other side of that resistance, and the only way to reach it is by moving through it. Now let's talk about something that can completely change how you approach action. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces you can use to your advantage. Your brain hates starting, it resists the initial effort required to begin something new. But once you start, your brain begins to adapt quickly, and the resistance starts to decrease. That is why the hardest part of anything is always the first step. Once you push through that initial barrier, everything becomes more manageable. But most people never reach that point because they stop before momentum can build. And when they stop, their brain reinforces the pattern of avoidance once again. So here is a simple but powerful shift in how you approach your goals. Do not focus on the entire journey because that can feel overwhelming and intimidating. Focus only on starting, on taking one small step that moves you forward. One action is enough to break the pattern and begin creating change. Because action is what rewires your brain over time. Every time you act despite resistance, you send a new signal that this behavior is safe. And slowly, your brain begins to adapt and change its response. It stops seeing growth as a threat and starts accepting it as part of your normal behavior. But this transformation only happens if you act consistently and repeatedly. Not once, not occasionally, but over and over again until it becomes part of who you are. Now, here is a harsh truth that most people try to avoid facing. If you continue to listen to your brain's default settings, you will stay exactly where you are. You will keep the same habits, the same results, and the same frustrations that you have right now. Nothing will change because your brain is doing its job perfectly. The real question is whether you are going to let it control your life indefinitely, or if you are going to take control and consciously choose a different path. Because once you understand how this works, everything begins to shift. You stop waiting to feel ready, and you stop trusting every thought that crosses your mind. You start moving with intention, even when it feels uncomfortable. You start choosing growth over comfort, and that is where real change begins. Think about your brain as an overprotective guard that is constantly trying to keep you safe. It means well, but it does not understand your goals, your ambitions, or your vision for the future. It only understands safety, and it will do everything in its power to maintain that. So if you do not take control, it will keep you locked in a cage that feels comfortable. But that comfort comes at the cost of your potential and your growth. Now imagine what it would feel like to break out of that cage and redefine your limits. Imagine creating a new standard for yourself, where discomfort is not something you avoid. Instead, it becomes something you seek because you understand what it represents. It represents progress, expansion, and movement towards something greater. This shift in perspective is what separates average individuals from those who achieve extraordinary results. And it all starts with a single decision that you can make at any moment. The decision to stop obeying fear and to start acting despite it. So the next time you feel resistance, hesitation, or that voice telling you to stop and go back, instead of listening to it automatically, take a moment to recognize what it really is. It is not a warning that you are in danger. It is a sign that you are about to grow. It is a sign that you are stepping outside of your comfort zone and into something new. It is a sign that you are getting closer to the life that you actually want. And in that moment, you always have a choice to make. You can go back to comfort and stay exactly where you are, or you can move forward into growth and change everything about your future. One choice keeps you safe, and the other transforms your life in ways you cannot imagine yet. Choose wisely, because your brain will always choose safety by default. But your future depends entirely on whether you choose courage instead. Now ask yourself a final question that only you can answer honestly. Are you going to keep living on autopilot, following patterns that limit you? Or are you finally going to take control and create the life you know you are capable of? Because the moment you stop letting your brain decide your limits is the moment everything begins to change. And that moment is not somewhere in the future. It can happen right now.